Welcome to my show today. Today I'm going to be talking about the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon, the big, giant, shiny new hunk of junk that just came out that maybe a few of you are lucky enough to have. I don't have one, so instead I'm brought along my Saturn V and my little miniature Millennium Falcon just to keep me company because mine is still waiting for stock. Who knows when mine's going to come. So let's say you are lucky enough and you have one of these new Millennium Falcons in this giant box, and you bought it because you wanted to build it, because you thought it'd be really, really cool to build it. Now you've brought it home and you realize you have no place to put it. You have no place to put this box. You have to be careful with that box. That box is probably worth a couple $100s all by itself, so you don't want to crush it or anything. And then you glance on eBay and you see $1,400. Holy smokes. Oh yeah, maybe I should sell this thing instead. Or maybe you waited in line and got your Millennium Falcon with the intent of selling it right away, with the intent of flipping this set right away. And either way, you need to figure out how you're going to do it. What does it mean to flip a set, especially if you're brand new to it and you didn't intend to flip that set? And I equate it to a little bit like the dark side sneaking in, to flip that set. But of course, there has to be a balance between the light and the dark. And the people who are flipping these sets are sort of redistributing the set across the country. Right? If I wanted to spend a couple extra $100, I could get mine right now. That's something that they've allowed. Even though I tried really hard to get my own, Lego didn't allow it. So how did we get in this mess? It's because Lego didn't supply enough. So they have maybe 80 stores. The max any store got was 10. So that's about 800 sets in the United States. Now I'm going to be mainly focusing on the US just because that's what I know. So about 800 sets in store in the United States. That's nothing, because the lines were like 30, 40 deep. They could have easily sold way more than that. They're creating scarcity online. Let's say maybe they had double that. Maybe they had 1,600 online that sold out instantly. They could have easily had 10 times as much. Do I know that they had 1,600? No, I'm just completely guessing. I could be off by a factor of 10. Maybe they had 20,000 available online. I really don't think so, because I was clicking, and I was probably pretty close to the front of the line trying to get mine, and now I am waiting for stock. I have no idea when mine's going to come. So we find ourselves in this situation because Lego, after hyping this for months, didn't provide enough. I mean, if they had 20 or 30,000, that's about $20 million worth. That's nothing for them. But anyway, enough complaining. What are you going to do now that you have yours? So you could flip it, or maybe you went in thinking you were going to flip it. Maybe you are really a QFLL, a quick flipping lowlife, which is the scummiest of the scum resellers, but people wear it as a badge of honor because, after all, we are dealing with a nerf herder, right? And they have a part in this entire ecosystem of buying and selling, redistributing the sets, because it only happens when there is a shortage of sets and a demand to get them. And in this case, it's just an artificial scarcity. It's not like there's a limited supply of the Millennium Falcon. Lego can make as many as they want, so it's this artificial scarcity that's been created that is filled then by the flippers. And just one story that I have, I was in a Walmart a couple months ago, and lo and behold, I saw someone walk by, and they had one of those NES Classics. I was like, right, great. So I scurry on back to the electronics counter, and there's a woman in line in front of me, and she also has an NES Classic. So I poke my head around and I say, hey, do you got any more of those? And he says, yes, I have one more. You gonna get any more? No, we just found one box, had 3 in it. Who knows when we're gonna get any more? This was after Nintendo had already said it was retired. So I buy mine for 60 bucks. As I'm walking out of the Walmart, the lady who was in front of me in line jumps out and says, do you want to sell that? So I stop and I think, there it was, the dark side starting to creep in. I could double my money then and there, outside of the Walmart store, of course, in the parking lot, but that's not my thing. I generally don't flip stuff like that. So instead, I took it home, wrapped it up, gave it to my sister for her birthday. Right? So these opportunities are out there, but it either takes a lot of work to get in line and wait, or it takes luck to get what you want. And it happens all the time with houses, with makeup, with handbags, with concert tickets, right? This stuff is happening all the time. So now you're thinking, yes, I want to flip my Millennium Falcon, and you see it on eBay for $1,400. Well, what does that really mean? Well, so I went through and I looked at all those listings on eBay, and I'll put them up there now. So you can see the average sale price is about $1,400. There are 39 that are available for sale right now in the United States, and in the past 3 days, 37 of them have sold. So there's a lot churning through. Now, if your average fees on eBay, depending on what kind of eBay seller are you, is between $150 and $180. And I looked up the UPS shipping for this set, and this set is so big that weight doesn't matter. You're going to fall completely into the dimensional charges that the carriers have instituted now. So from shipping from the Midwest out to the East Coast, it was approximately $60, $70. Maybe you can get it cheaper than that with some negotiated rate shipping, either through eBay or through whatever. So you got to factor that in. So your take home, about $1,150. And your profit then is going to be about $300. So is that worth it? Well, that's one selling platform on eBay. There's some other selling platforms that you can look at. One of them is Amazon, which is a super popular selling platform. So go ahead and look at that there. There's both for sale or fulfillment by merchant or fulfillment by Amazon, and you can see the comparison there. The biggest difference between these two is that fulfillment by Amazon, you ship the set to Amazon and pay ridiculously cheap shipping to Amazon, and then they take care of the rest. And you can see often on Amazon the prices are much higher. Now this data, who knows if this is even selling at this, but in general Amazon sells for higher than eBay. And you can see your take-home profit there would be about $600 either way you do it. Another option is Bricklink, and it's a very, very popular website that's been around for a long time. And there they're selling for a little less than $1,200. Now the difference there is your fees are way, way, way less, and you see there's no shipping because the buyer pays for the shipping. So again, you can sell it through Bricklink, and you're earning about $250. Or lastly, maybe you do it in person. So if you go to Craigslist and list it, and then you have no fees, no shipping, you get paid cash. So those going, there was only one available within 300 miles of me. Again, $1,200. Who knows if it's selling or not, but that seems like a reasonable amount to ask. So you're going to get a little over $300 there again. So you can see more or less the prices that people are getting, more or less the profit you would get. But the biggest question is risk. How much risk is there involved in doing these different things? Because yes, you can sell it, but there's also, you're inherently taking on risk. So on eBay, what's the risk? The risk could be that it's shipped to your buyer and they reject it. They say, because it's become cheaper by the time it gets there and it gets returned to you. Well, even all your disclaimers and all your stuff, you can't return it, you only blah, 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 blah. It can still get shipped back to you, and it can still be a huge hassle of risk. On Amazon, the risk is immense for this big set. I would never, ever sell a big set on Amazon just because it is so, so risky. So a story about Amazon, the last big set I sold on Amazon, Sea Cow, January 2016, and it was something like $400. I sold it, I was happy, it shipped out, and then about 3 weeks later, I get a return authorization, which immediately deducts all that money from my account, no matter what the reason for the return is. And then I have to wait another 2 weeks for that set to get back to Amazon, and then I can figure out what the return reason was. And thankfully for that set, it was carrier damaged, which meant Amazon reimbursed me for that entire amount, and that set went to their warehouse deals. But it easily could have been customer damaged. It easily could have been junk filled in with that set, and I would have just lost it. So never ever sell those big sets on Amazon. It is just way, way too risky. So even though it seems like there's a lot of profit there, just don't do it. On Bricklink, you have a little bit more control over your buyer, and in general, you have a little bit more, I feel more secure on Bricklink than I do on some of the other ones. But there still is some risk. Again, you have PayPal seller protection to protect you, but you also have PayPal buyer protection that protects the buyer, so there is a little bit of risk. And then lastly, Craigslist is the lowest risk as long as you have a second person with you, as long as you're in a public daytime parking lot somewhere, library, whatever. So then you just have a cash transaction, and of course the risk there is very low. Now, the last thing to think about when you're selling all this stuff is, what if these prices change? You see all this great stuff, and by the time you get your listing up there, you can see prices have fluctuated, and you can see, go ahead and look at those break-even prices. So lower than the price I've listed there on all of those selling platforms, you will not make your money back. So you can see how much built-in overhead there is to actually successfully sell something for a profit. And if it falls below that, you're either going to be taking a lot of risk for zero profit, or you should just not do it. So now that you've seen all those and you've decided how you want to sell your set, what does that really mean? What does it actually take to actually accomplish that task? Well, so there are a few things you need to do if you want to flip a set. Number one, you should calculate your time. So how much time did it take you to acquire your set? Well, on average, I'd say maybe if you're waiting in line 3-4 hours to acquire that set, how much does it take to package it, to ship it, either on Bricklink or on eBay? At least an hour to package it, to print out your label, do all that sort of stuff. Then you have the transit time. So you worry, at least I worry, that I get so stressed out by this whole thing. So you have a transit time of a week, hoping it gets there, hoping someone doesn't lose it, hoping there's a signature, because of course you're doing signature confirmation for this thing, and everything goes smoothly. So that's a week of waiting till it's delivered. But even when it says delivered, most places, even despite no matter what disclaimers you have, will have 14 days to a return, maybe even a month to return it. And so all that time could pass and the buyer could change their mind and you could still get a return authorization. So it takes all this time of waiting to actually accomplish that. And look at how much you're making, $300. Is it worth all of that for your $300? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Again, that's something that is up to you. For me, no way. The risk is just too great. I get too nervous about the whole thing, so I don't do it. Lastly, let's say everything goes smoothly, right? You have a smooth transaction, you have nothing to worry about. It was all just nerves, and you pocket the money. And the vast majority of the time, that's going to be the case. But what if you have a contested transaction? So then you have the time to accept the return of a damaged set. Maybe takes a couple hours. You have the time it takes to dispute some sort of other claim of fraud or not the right set or missing pieces. That could take hours and hours of your time. Then you have time to collect the money that's been deducted for your account. That could take weeks to get your money back. The worst outcome is that you may never get your money back and you're completely out the money for that set. The best outcome with some sort of dispute in any of these situations is that you do get the set back, all the pieces are there, and it's opened, but you can still build it. So, with a set this big, that $800 set, any of this dispute would just completely destroy any hope of profit. So I don't know if I've scared you about doing this flipping stuff. It scares me, but I know a lot of people are out there and do it successful. And what could happen, what is actually the biggest risk for this, spending this $800 and getting it? The biggest risk is that tomorrow, Lego could easily have 10 or 20,000 more sets that they put online. It could just become plentiful. There's no reason why they couldn't have planned for this, and that it just goes right back down to retail price, which is the key thing to do if you're thinking about buying a second set to flip, or your initial goal was to buy one to resell. And that is, you have to be willing to take that capital that you've put and sit on it for 5 years or take a loss. If you're not willing to do either of those things, then you shouldn't be putting that money in to begin with, which is why I'm buying one, and when it comes, I'm going to build it. Now, if I was really, really anxious, I could spend a couple extra $100 and get one right away from one of the resellers, but I'm willing to be patient, and I know that this is not a rare set. It's plenty are going to be produced, and I'm willing to wait. So if you're thinking about flipping, those are all the things you need to think about. If you're thinking about buying from someone who's flipping it, yes, you can be upset at them, but you can also know that part of it is redistributing. They took the time to sell it to you, and if you're willing to pay it, you can't really complain. So anyway, until next time, Lego on.